Well, hello there. Thanks for joining me. I am Dr. Jen, and I'm very pleased that you're educating yourself on creating rentals for your paying customers that I'm hoping are rentals like you would treat yourself. Amazing. This is my life as a landlord, and I'm excited to have the guest today. I'm pretty sure that he can attest that his former landlord, not me, I am his current landlord, but the former landlord would likely not live in the situation that he was in. And we're going to talk about triggering events as a tenant. And I'm excited to have Mike Daniels on the show with me today. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Full disclosure, Mike has been our mentee for a long time. You've been our tenant multiple times, and you're a current tenant now. In fact, you're recording right above me in the same house, which is really
This is
funny.
correct.
I know it's really funny. We've never done this before, but there's been a couple things that have happened, and then instantly Mike looked at me, my Mike looked at me and goes, "You should have him on the show." So we're doing that today.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Thank you for having me and excited to jump into it.
Awesome. Well, so let's just talk about it. 2 days into your current tenancy, there was a barking dog behind our house here, and it totally triggered you. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. It's, people come in all different shapes and sizes, and so do dogs and situations. And yeah, we were fresh off of a situation that we dealt with pretty extensively at another rental when we were back in Michigan visiting family. Yeah, it was a very involved process. So once I heard that little guy ripping behind the current place that we're at with you, it kind of brought a lot of that back where I'm going, okay, these things are very, very rarely just isolated unless somebody's visiting. And then once you start hearing the consistency and the cadence and the pattern, and you start kind of going into operation mode where you're going like, okay, interesting. It's pretty early in the morning for that. It's pretty late at night for that. It's pretty consistent. And like, it brings about this doom and gloom moment where you're going, how am I going to change someone's behavior? I have a hard enough time changing my own behavior. How am I going to change somebody else's behavior, let alone their dog? So yeah, that feeling.
Well, and so we've been battling this here, and it brought up there was a bunch of stuff that happened back in Michigan, and so we were talking about anti-barking boxes and
Yep.
whistles and all kinds of things, which we have here, and we've had to get humane enforcement involved here because it's not normal that this dog is barking like this. It's a Jack Russell Terrier, not that the breed has anything to do with it, but anyway, and I know you tried. And so tell us what happened. So this was a single family home, like lay out where it was, what kind of parcel this was. And then my understanding is you had multiple dogs, multiple
Yeah.
properties with dogs barking. Like,
Yeah, it was pretty chaotic. I mean, the house, we're the type of people where most people at this point in their life would probably be owning a place where we've kind of been back and forth between the mainland and Hawaii, and we like to travel, so we've gotten really good at being tenants. So being a tenant to somebody is one thing, but being a tenant to somebody that know, love, and trust is usually a really good way to go. So that's why we're here with you.
okay,
But being back in Michigan, that was with Cameo's parents. So
okay.
yeah, and that was a house that they picked up. It was a foreclosure that they picked up in like 2011, 2010. And yeah, it's a single family home in southeastern Michigan. It's a beautiful area in Oakland County. And it's lake living. It's around a lake. It's a really nice area, but it's not I would say it would be kind of your B class neighborhood, working class people, people that work a 9 to 5. And yes, they have dogs. So no fence on our lot. They had fences on both sides. And pretty quick into it, we realized, okay, we've got 2 dogs on one side and we have 3 dogs on the other side. And it was summertime. And essentially, what we realized upon moving in is, I work from home. Cameo is a stay-at-home mom and a homeschool teacher and all of the other things that come with like the best title in the world, which is a homemaker. I mean, she's got the real job. Um, and we realized, oh crap, like we have a situation in our hands where these guys are going all day long and even
They're
on into the
barking.
evening,
They're barking all
barking
day long.
at
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, at everything. If we want to let our dogs out, triggering. If we were inside just having a chat, triggering,
Yeah,
and
because you have dogs too.
I have dogs too. Yeah, full disclosure, I have dogs too. And maybe you could attest to this. Like you'll hear my dogs every now and then, but like I'm very, very responsible when it comes to the noise my dogs make. So yeah, not everybody feels the same way. And we little did we understand how enthusiastic people would be to go 10 toes on that point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
So
So
you've
five
got
five dogs. Five dogs in
five,
total. Two on one
right,
side, three on the other. Yeah.
that are barking at everything, and you are a customer of exactly the situation I tell my listeners to not do. We tell
Yes.
people do not rent to friends and family because it makes for
Yep.
a very strange situation, and
Yep.
usually that doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a thing. So yeah, it really it brought about, originally it was like, hey, we're settled in, we're back here, we're, gonna get our legs under the desk, get settled in, relax, enjoy a little bit of summer, and then it was just like the rug yanked out from underneath you because now we're having, conversations with people that we didn't know and we're asking them to make concessions for us and try to make reasonable recommendations and some
How do you even
people.
approach that though? Like you're
Man,
talking
it's
to
so
your
hard.
in-laws, you're talking to your in-laws saying, "Look, this is a problem." What was
Yeah.
their response? Nothing?
Well, what I did initially is I tried to do like a little bit of like social jujitsu and try to say, "Hey, Diane, that's my mother-in-law, and do you happen to have the neighbor's phone number over, at this address? Do you have oh, okay, cool. Do you have the other one? The gal
Both
that lives
sides,
next."
yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, "Okay, I think this is her number. I'm not sure if that's her number, but I also talked to her like the other day when before you guys moved in." So I was like, okay, cool. I have a base to like work from. There's like a little bit of relational capital here that I can leverage to try to figure out like what's going on here. And like you know me, I work in people land. So it's like I understand people, dogs, I understand dogs pretty well, but it's like this is different. So I just politely introduced myself, just said, "Hey Mike, I just moved in next door. I've got two dogs as well. We work from home. Here most of the time. If my dogs are ever barking, let me know. I'm just trying to get up to speed, just try to be respectful, kind of understand everybody's schedules, just try to be as responsible as possible next door. If there's ever anything on my side that you need from me, let me know. And I'll try to do the same, just to be respectful both ways if that's not too much to ask for. And that was just kind of like an intro. And it landed. It landed extremely well. Like it was like it went well. Because like a week later, that the one gal that had the dogs that were super over the top, they actually had barking collars on, and I remember messaging her like, "Hey, one of the dogs is barking quite a lot. Like, is there anything I can do to kind of chill things out?" And it was like, "Oh, which one is it? Is it the brown one or is it the one that's kind of like black with like the white belly? Oh, it's the brown one. Oh." Let me message my daughter and make sure she has the bark collar on him. And that dog's name was Sunny as well. So there's similar namesake with one of my dogs. But like that was like cool. I was like, whoa, like they're playing the game with me. Like this is awesome. Like really rare, right? And it was going well. And it was we made a little bit of headway for like that first week, but then there was a night that they had a bonfire and they were kind of up hooting and hollering into the night like and it was like 11 or midnight and they're still outside like listening to music and doing a bonfire and I had used that same form of communication via text and I was just saying like hey Haley, like it's about midnight, you guys mind taking it inside? And I could see there's like the dots, coming up with a response, and then the response never came. So then I was like, now I'm gonna have to go outside and have a chat at the fence line, you know, and she had a boyfriend at the time, and let's just say that he wasn't too stoked to talk to me, and basically
Mm.
said, "Why don't you just call the police then?" And I was like, "Okay, but I'm trying to not do that, and I don't want to do that. Like, could we not have that situation?" And after that, the relationship just totally fractured. It was like, "Don't text me, don't nothing," and then the debark collars came off the dogs, and it was like,
Oh,
now I'm being punished. Yep.
so it was very much retaliation. Oh boy.
Yeah, it was retaliation. And then the gal on the other side, it was it was like wasn't really much. She would go to work and just leave her dogs outside. They had this like the little mesh magnet like sliding door thing you can put over. So her
Hmm.
dogs would chill inside and then they would just go outside and just free range, just rip, you know. And she worked nights. I think she was a bartender and she also looked after one of like kind of the corner stores. It was like a 24-hour corner store. And yeah, with her, it was kind of like they were friends. So once the relationship broke with the other one, it was like write this guy off. He's an out of towner. The other neighbors are so much better. This guy is like totally over the top. And so once I broke the relationship with Haley, I lost Stacy too. And then at that point, it was like I lost both of them, and it was just from that point I knew that I was gonna have to get clever, get informed, and try to figure out like what my rights were, and just try to stay even keel.
Did you ever reach out to like the SPCA or the Humane Society or even the non-emergency police number? Like, did you ever do any
Yeah,
of that?
I did all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the process in Michigan, is particular in that county, is that, anything between certain hours would be animal control. Anything after hours would kind of go over on into the sheriff's office. They don't have like a local police department. It's just the sheriffs for that county.
Hmm.
And yeah, then I'm fighting on two fronts now, right? So I have, humane enforcement for the daytime stuff, and now I have, Oakland County Sheriff for the evening stuff. And yeah, I mean, it got daunting because it worked through like a local code enforcement agent for the county for the daytime stuff. So the humane stuff was just kind of intake, and then they just elevated onto like the same guy that would enforce like building codes and stuff was also the same person that presided over noise ordinances. He was just basically what they would refer to as like an ordinance officer. Um, and it was incredibly difficult to get a good traction with that gentleman because unfortunately one of the neighbors already had a relationship with him and actually already had his number like in her phone. So I'm like, oh, he's compromised. It's like it was
Huh.
I was like, this is difficult. We eventually got a little bit of traction on that front, but the police, I mean, it's just go in hindsight, it was such an escalatory, it went up the escalatory ladder. Whenever you call the police on somebody, it takes things so far past reasonable so quick because you have uniformed agents outside their home knocking on their door. Now they're having a chat, and it has there's a stigma when neighbors see other neighbors call the police on each other. So
Becomes a spectacle, doesn't it?
yeah, so I definitely I went from having one person that I lost a relationship with to two, and then quickly that was like three or four in short order because they all
Mm.
kind of knew each other. So it was, yeah, and then like the gaslighting of it, you feel like, I'm reasonable. I'm like looking at the way the noise ordinances read, the letter of the law, and this is just not really, this is weird because I'm trying to just get clarity and get a little bit of accountability here, and this is backfiring in like grand fashion, you know?
It just seems it seems reasonable. It seems like a reasonable request to not have dogs bark consistently, incessantly. And
Well, they were jumping up on the fence. One of them was like half almost into my yard at one point.
oh
Then I was
boy,
thinking about banning in the backyard, if their dog got over the
your
fence.
son. Yeah, your
Oh
son.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm like, this is crazy, right?
right.
Yeah. And they weren't happy about that.
Well, what'd you end up doing? I mean, did you try the anti-barking, bird houses
Yeah.
and the whistles and like what'd you end up doing?
Yeah, going back to that point about like getting informed, getting like you know, just starting to figure out like, okay, well, if I can't get any help from anybody else, well then like what things are inside my control that like I can do to try to affect the situation outside of going humane enforcement, outside of going, police for like noise violations and stuff like this. There's a plethora of different you know, let's call them products out there that you
Mm-hmm.
can you can buy. I know some of them and then like some of them I know. Some of them just were wildly ineffective. Some of them were quite effective, but then you need more of them than you thought you needed. So I like just went out to Amazon and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those, and then they all showed up, and then it was like, now I'm in the lab, you know? So now I'm in the lab. And one of them in particular, which was the most expensive one, allowed USB-C plug-in to keep it live 24/7 with a really long cord, and I could set those up. And I was like, okay, cool, cool. So like I set up this like perimeter along the one fence with the dogs that were terrible, and the other dogs that were like only shared like maybe about 15 feet of fence where they would just kind of funnel in. I only need like one device there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had them all like woven together, and I had a little remote in my hand, and they would react to barking, but in the event that the sensitivity wasn't high enough, like I could just deploy it like immediately after they would bark or be crazy. And I was like, whoa, like it's kind of working like as a deterrent, I would say that that probably knocked it down maybe like 20 or 30%, because they're big dogs. They're not like little dogs where they're like, whoa, what was that? They're like
Mm-hmm.
big dogs, so they're kind of like formidable. So it was more of like curious, like what's that high pitched noise that I'm hearing? So that was helpful. Where it went south for me is that um they thought that they were game cams and that I was recording them. These women thought that I was a guy with a
Oh.
camera that was recording them. One of the women had daughters that were like, between 18 and 25. And
Mm.
yeah, so that turned into I have a creepy guy that has game cams that are aiming in my house. So now the cops got called on me.
So now the cops got called on you. So now you've
Yes.
become the spectacle. Okay, so you've become the spectacle, and how did that go down?
Yeah, I mean, it it uh it was like it was pretty wild. Um like they came over there, I had to put my dogs in there, kennel them up, close up the door. And now I have Oakland County Sheriff on my property, and I'm like, this is an anti-barking device. Like it has speakers, there's no camera on it. Like it's pretty easy to see. And I was just super blessed because like one of the guys that came over was a canine handler.
Oh, so
And
he knew.
yeah, and he was like, "Oh, you have a Malinois?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh man, they're the best, aren't they?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, this is gonna go pretty good." And essentially, the guy was just the uniform officer that was there was like, "This is an anti-barking device. It's I've seen these. These are actually really great. The code enforcement people love these because they're pretty effective and they don't cause permanent damage to the dogs. A lot of these require testing in order to sell them, so they're kind of like lab certified. They're not like, causing any damage to the dogs, and it's definitely not a camera." And then like they threw a fit. They're like, "Well, what do you mean? They can't just put him on the fence like it's on his property, you know?" And then that kind of spurred this whole conversation, which is like outside this topic, which is like, well, what's his property? Because my fence is here, but is that his property? So we had to have a survey, and we had a
So it
survey
got
with
escalated even further. Okay.
yeah, yeah, it became
So
a
you had a
property dispute.
survey.
Had a survey,
Okay.
put up a fence, realized that one of the neighbors um had encroaching structures and their fence was actually on our property. So we had to have a fence crew come through and remove their fence, set up our fence. They had a temporary structure that was on our property. She had a whole garden that was on our property that had to come up. So it was like, ooh, this is fun. So yeah, I
All
mean,
because they had barking dogs and weren't wanting to just be reasonable neighbors. Good
yeah,
humans, really.
yeah, I would say that like it comes down to like ownership and accountability, you know? You're a dog lover. I'm a dog lover,
Yeah.
right? We know dogs very well and like um I don't think that you would ever be the type of person that would be like 10 toes down to let your dog just sit on the side of the yard and just bark and bark and bark at somebody.
No.
And it really, I would say ultimately the main thing it just came back to me is how far through the fog of war people were willing to go um, to just keep escalating and saying like I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. Where now we have survey crews, property line disputes and stuff, and all the while like the dogs are still barking. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And all that survey stuff and moving fences and moving gardens, that's not free.
It's
None
not
of
free.
that's free. And all it's doing is escalate it even further.
Yep.
So so let's skip to the end. Did
Yep.
the dogs ever stop barking?
Not really. I mean, the the gal on the one side, um, so I'll use their first names and we're not have any address, so we don't have to worry about privacy. So you have Haley and Stacy. Haley was the one that had the boyfriend and had the two barking dogs. Stacy was the single gal that had the three barking dogs on the other side. Um, Stacy, Stacy, I had numerous situations with her where I did have to call code enforcement, not code enforcement, but the police because those dogs particularly were the night barkers because she'd come back in the night, they would howl inside all day, and essentially like it was really weird with like the seasons and what she would do. She'd be gone for sometimes like over a day on end and her dogs would be stuck in her house. And I could hear them howling and trying to get out. They were like German shepherds. It was really bad. And I just got the police involved enough times where eventually what happened after we established our property line along her property line,
Mm-hmm.
she when there was that whole moment that came about where it was like there's these barking devices, what happened? She was actually trespassing on her property, trying to take pictures of those. And my son was in the backyard, and she was taking pictures of my backyard and taking pictures of my kid. And I'm like, full stop. No, you're not doing this anymore.
Right. Oh
You're
my
not doing this
goodness.
anymore. So I actually got involved in, I trespassed her, and she was served like a trespass warning because they warn you before they actually
Wow.
trespass you and basically said like full stop like you're gonna get a misdemeanor if you keep acting up like you're completely unreasonable. These people are trying to just trying to live, you know. She like it completely broke her desire to keep fighting, and she just kept her dogs inside. When she come home she'd let them out, and it's like a normal dog owner. It's like wow, it happened.
Amazing.
So occasionally we would get some of it in the afternoon, you know, if they were out in the summertime, but like otherwise, the rest of the year, that was like we were like, that one's done, you know, no worries. Haley's the one that really got nuts, and that was the one where we had the fence dispute, crazy family situation where when our fence guys were there putting up the fence, they had a whole family there. They were trying to argue and cause a feud with the fencing contractors, believe it or not. It was crazy. Um, and then up, yeah, I would say even up until the point that we moved, the dogs were still there and they were still barking. And that code enforcement guy was like nowhere to be seen.
It's so interesting because if you are doing the right thing according to whatever bylaws, whether it's noise bylaw or, there's the other aspect of it. As a tenant, you are allowed quiet enjoyment of
Yes.
the rental unit that you are trying to live in. And if you happen to be a at-home business owner, right? You're
Yep.
working, you're doing sales at home, and your wife, your partner, your son, you guys are all learning and living at home. Your world is not at another location per se. It's in your house. Same with me. I work at home,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so this is where it's like there's quiet enjoyment, and then there's the extra wrinkle of your landlord is your family.
Yeah.
And this
That's
is
yeah.
where it's like, okay, so if they had not been your family, do you think you would have done anything different?
I think that like it was definitely at first there was a lot of hesitancy like from
On their
from
side?
yeah, from fam on that. But you just capture some good video and good audio and just share that stuff and it's like, whoa, that's insane, you know?
Right.
So they did get involved and then they kind of like joined in on it from like an owner standpoint, saying like this is completely ridiculous. And I would say that we got way more mileage because it was them. I would
What do you
say
mean?
that like they I believe that like there was definitely like they got involved to the degree that they were willing to get involved, and I believe it to be, in my experience, more than it would be if it was just a business transaction with somebody that was unrelated.
Okay, what do you mean? Were they how much more were they involved because it was your family?
Like they were willing to come there, they were willing to document it themselves. They jumped in on emails with code enforcement saying like, hey, we're the owners of the property. This is completely out of line. Like, they had personal relationships because of my father-in-law is a contractor and has done a lot of work for that county and for that township. And he was even utilizing some of his contacts to try to get some hastened action out of the code enforcement. And yeah, I mean, even then, it still backfired. It still didn't really work well, which was like really crazy to think after all of that connection, after all that accountability, still not much. So, but if it was a landlord that was not, a relative and it was somebody that was just an arm's length transaction, I think it would have been really hard. It would have been really, really hard. I mean, it was already hard, but I think that at that point, if they showed any sign of just not wanting to be involved, I'd be trying to exit the lease. I mean,
Right.
it would have been impossible.
Well, and that's
And
the
that's usually where it goes in my experience. That's
and
usually where
and
it
I
goes.
agree.
It's like sorry, like listen, we're not going to hold it against you. And then there's this line. I haven't really heard anything like this from, people that I've had here before. I get it. You guys are a little bit different. And then it's like, if you guys want out, I'm not going to hold you against it. And it's like,
Right.
okay, but now I have to move again. It's just like,
Exactly. Now you've got to reestablish, you've got to pay for your move. I mean, the grief to dollars ratio, it's not solved because
it's not
if
solved.
it's not solved, like that is one option, but it's not solved. And that's where it can get really sketchy. Now, tell me this. Did your
Yeah.
in-laws pay for the surveys?
They did. They did. Yeah, I even
Okay.
offered up to like share in with them on that. But they were like, "Yeah, we got to do it anyways." And I was like, "Okay,
Right.
cool." And I did some like drone reconnaissance and I was like, "I'm looking at the county stuff and it's showing like the lines like way over here. You might want to really like, shore this up." And then basically what I showed them, they were like baffled. They were really blown away. They're like, "Whoa, this lot's a lot bigger than we thought it was." And it was
Fence
an
lines are
old
not lot lines.
yeah, it was an old lot, and it took them a little while to be able to draw the lines and find some pins that were in the air to allow them to like triangulate that spot. But
Hmm.
I mean, it was crazy. Like the one gal's house was built within about 3 feet of the actual property line. Like, like
Wow.
I was like her meter was almost inaccessible because of the fence line. Like her life almost got flipped upside down pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the survey was 4,500 bucks. You know, the chain link fence just around the three sides, so the side, and the back, you know, with a little gate,
Mm-hmm.
a man gate that goes to the back of the house. That was, I don't know, around like 12,000, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, these numbers add up pretty quick.
Plus, you've got some really nice high speed, barking, anti-barking devices that, the police officers obviously recognized and they're not cheap. And
Well, and we
so,
also got ring cameras. We set up ring cameras with like motion on all sides because then I have trespassing and people that are basically,
all right.
trespass, and I'm like, now I'm in like full defense mode,
At your
It's very
home, like
at my
at your
house.
home.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm happy to say that the situation that we're in here with the barking dog here, um, it, you're not quite it's not been escalated like that. I mean,
No.
it's not solved. It's not 100% solved. We're definitely getting better,
Yep.
but it's not like that, right? Like we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars.
No, no, and because the
Wow.
property line's already established, it is what it is. And ultimately, I guess so like you said like okay, like go to the end, like how does it, how did it pan out? And essentially
Hmm.
like one side it worked, one side it blew up in grand fashion and turned into a whole side quest. In hindsight, Cameo's parents are actually selling that house. They're not
I
going to
was
put
going to
somebody
ask,
else.
yeah, so they're selling it, but unfortunately
Yeah,
now do they have to disclose and say, we have asshole neighbors?
I don't know.
I
Maybe.
don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and as you know that from, from the investment standpoint, what was once a nice investment all of a sudden has a totally different view to it because you're going, I have a ridiculous Nate relationship with these people now, and it was all just because you told them to like, hey, take your elbow room and just kind of fold it in a little bit, be respectful, creating a little space for the person that's in the middle. And they were just like unwilling, you know? So my main takeaway from all of this, and then it kind
Hmm.
of crosses over into the place that, we're at currently, is that and I even dealt with this a little bit in Texas, because we were in Texas for a year since,
Hmm.
so remember, like 2 years since you and I last saw each other before I returned to Island 2 months ago. About half of that was in Texas and about half of that was in Michigan. Let me tell you, in Texas, they don't play around. Um, in Texas, well, at least in, Williamson County, that's where we were. It's just north of Austin. And we had a situation where, I didn't know what the house was because it looked like almost no one was there. The house looked nice, but there was dogs that were left outside all day long. And I called Williamson County PD and said, "Hey, these dogs look like they're out there. They're out there burning up. I don't have to know if they have any water. It's 105 degrees out today. You know, this is crazy. Can you guys at least assess the situation?" And they did, and they went out there and they basically left a note and said, "You guys need to call us. Like the situation's pretty looks pretty dire."
To the neighbor.
And then they pulled the dogs in. They pulled the dogs in and that those same dogs we go on to have some fun nighttime situations with them, and ultimately we rang the police up, and they walk right up into there, right into the yard, right up to the door, bang on the door. And the guy was just like mouthing off, and the police were like, "Listen, here's a ticket, here's your time when you have to appear into the court to explain what you're doing. um this is a quiet neighborhood. We're going to keep it a quiet neighborhood. There's clear rules. I'm here. I can hear it myself. Like, sorry, here you go. Here's your ticket. Here's your time to appear." Freaking quiet after that. Not a peep.
Hmm.
Nothing. So from the Michigan situation now in the Michigan situation and the Hawaii situation are becoming to be quite common in the sense that the channels that we go through, the formal channels that they publish, and they give us, the pathway, and you're about as good at following direction as anybody. You go, okay, cool. This is the escalatory ladder that I have to follow. These are the
Here's the
steps.
game.
Here's the game. I'm going to play it. And what you realize is that you're hitting the ping pong ball across to the enforcement people, but it takes a long time for them to hit the ball back over. Or sometimes maybe they don't even hit the ball back over. The ball just falls off the table, you know,
Right.
to use a metaphor. And that happened a lot in Michigan. And what happens is that's days and weeks that prolong and prolong and prolong where you're kind of going like, "Oy, this isn't really going as fast as I would hoped, and it's not terrible, but it's also not solved." So where I all automatically ended up getting into was realizing that sometimes taking things into your own hands is not a bad thing. You always start off with a neighborly conversation. If things don't
Mm-hmm.
work there, then you go to the formal
Mm-hmm.
channels. But ultimately, if we hadn't moved where we were going to go, was going to be, contacting a lawyer and,
Yeah.
serving a demand letter and citing those ordinances and just taking it to the civil side, you know? And I think that in my experience with Michigan and my experience here is that the law enforcement officers tend to kind of funnel you in that way anyways. The code enforcement
Yeah.
people will do the best they can, the humane people kind of do what they can, but ultimately they try to just funnel you towards civil to have you do it the civil side.
Yeah.
It's my key
And we've
takeaway.
tried. We've gone to the neighbors and we've knocked and we've tried. We've tried to have conversations and they won't come to the door, right? So we
Yep.
know they're home and they won't come to the
Oh,
door.
they're certainly home.
Yeah, so it is it's upsetting and just trying to be reasonable and like I say, trying to be a good human.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah, it's you get to the point where it's like at what point is too much? At what
Yeah.
point is leaving the location the only option? Like even paying for a move and going through the stress of a move and all of that, despite all of the normal human living things going on, like homework and boxing and all the things that you're going to do, at what point is that the best option? And it's
Yep.
tough. And to hear that you guys invested in surveys and fence moving and that it escalated beyond just barking and now they're selling the property. I mean,
Now they're selling the property,
and that's a
which is
tragedy.
crazy because Cameo's family's had houses in that neighborhood around that lake, like since there was houses around that lake in the neighborhood, like going back like over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like that story closes now. That house will be sold. It won't be there anymore.
Well, and going full circle,
Yeah.
you've still got the neighbor. What's her Haley is her name? You
Yep.
still got the neighbor with the dogs and not necessarily contributing to the neighborhood. And then some unsuspecting person is going to buy this house and they're going to go in. And the dogs, I always go back to the dogs because the owners, if obviously that she knew she had bark collars on these dogs before, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then she took them
Yeah.
off. So
Yep.
there's retaliation there. So it's like,
Yep.
okay. And then the dogs are actually probably cool dogs if they were trained properly again, but it all goes back to the owner, right? And this is the same situation we have here too, is that
Yep.
the dog that's back there, it's a Jack Russell Terrier, so it's different
Yep.
because of their breed. However, if it was the more owner responsible, then yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. Well,
It is. It is. It's I guess kind of wrapping this up like the way that I look at it is it's not the dog's fault. It never is.
yeah,
You're in the people business. This is about the people business, and people aren't always easy, and rules are there to actually protect both sides oftentimes. I mean, litigators would say that all the
mhm,
time. Contracts are for both parties. It's for equal protection both ways. And yeah, and so is the ordinances, and so are all these revised statutes that have all this different, specificity, and bringing attention to those rules and those regulations and those details doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a person that wants to play by the rules.
right.
And there's nothing wrong with
Well,
that.
right. Yeah, it's a tough go. It's a tough go. And It's interesting because your history as as you say, a professional tenant, you've seen this, and I love your perspective in the different locations because, as you know, I'm doing lots of different landlord location specific episodes where the rules are different in pick
Yep.
a state,
Yep.
Colorado, and I'm, into Canada. I'm now moving into Australia and analyzing different locations, and they're all different. And
Sounds like
you
I'm
bring
gonna
it
have some
up.
podcast job security here for some future episodes.
Yes, there's lots and lots of different ones to go to, but you bring up a great point is that this is very location specific, in whether it's your municipality, your regional district, your county, whatever. And like you said, sheriff's office, sometimes there's a police depot, and sometimes, like in Canada, there's RCMP, but it might be an hour away. And
Yep.
so it's a little bit different on how everything reacts. But at the end of the day, if you still can't enjoy your home as a quiet place that you can actually live and function, then what is it as landlords that we are offering? Right? And
Yeah, I know.
this is where when the dog started barking in the back, I was just like, okay, what are the rules? I don't know what the rules are. The dog never bothered me like that,
Yep.
honestly. And it had been escalating for a while because we've lived here for 18 months, and I've heard the dog. I've heard the dog lots.
Yep.
But I just sort of was like, okay, and I put my head in the sand, and it's like that's never the answer either, right?
Yep.
So, yeah,
It's a
well,
lot of there's a lot of nuance. I think done's better than perfect, and I think that it's just a continuation. It's something that we can all get better at and understand more, and I think that just awareness to this specific point is that like quiet's going to be a selling point for homes in the future. Just
we've
like
talked about
yeah,
this.
the attention economy, like people have shorter attention spans than ever before, like hence value, like there's value for those people to work for you that can actually focus and do focused work. Houses that are quiet are going to be premium, you know. There's going to be a premium for a quiet, place. And
Quiet
and that's
location.
totally
Yep.
it's fine.
Yeah,
It is
like
what
a
it is.
condo in downtown Vancouver. If it's
Yep.
loud and noisy and lots of disruptions and you can't focus, I agree. And I like your idea. We talked about this when rental listings come up, it's going to come with a decibel level,
Yes.
right?
I
Or if
told
you
you.
want to pay more, it would come with a decibel level that was better, more
Yes.
quiet. And so
Yes.
it's like, but this is a thing, like
It's a thing.
because attention has now become a currency, and we're talking about distractions and what's the
Yes.
product that we're actually offering for sale as landlords. I think you're right. I think this is
Yeah.
where it's
It's where
going.
it's going. I'm telling
It's
you.
where it's
I'm
going.
telling you, because people don't work 9 to 5ers traditionally anymore, where they're just out of the house for the whole day. I mean, we're very exceptional people, as you know. Our lifestyle is very, on the go, on the move, but the hub, the center of the wheel, is here.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything to come back to, and you don't have the ability to get rest and relaxation and be able to, make some phone calls, do some work, do some teaching, do some cooking and all that stuff without being, driven crazy, like it's people, I think from the people on the other side of the fence don't understand how detrimental that actually is. And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, I would challenge any listener to research the areas if they had a barking dog, an incessant barking dog, whether it's their dog or a neighbor dog or a tenant dog, some kind of something, just for just to try it out, see what you would do. And sometimes you would start with a non-emergency line with the police. They will tell you how to do it. You could even Google it. You could go to your Humane Society, SPCA, something. There is a process somewhere in wherever the rental is. You've just got to learn what that game is just in case it
Yep.
ever came up, because this is a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly
Mike,
is.
any parting thoughts before we conclude?
Yeah, I became very good with using AI because of these things. Google's kind of gone, so ChatGPT and Grok are like great info sources. You'd be amazed at how quick it can aggregate information regarding your specific location, who to contact, the best way to handle things. It can even help you gin up, an ad hoc demand letter in the event that you do have to go civil, and like just get informed. And I think that at the end of the day, like there's no negative reason, or there's no reason why you can't have quiet enjoyment. Quiet enjoyment of a property is implied, and I don't think that it's like a bonus. I think that it's something that everybody should have a right to, and I think that, pursuing that is a noble pursuit. It's just how much fight do you have in you to wanna pursue it, And
And
God willing, you have some landlords that will go to bat for you.
that's the key, getting
Yep.
good landlords who have the right words to say and know the game. So,
Yes. Yep.
Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate all your insight on this case study all over the place about barking dogs. That's great.
Happy to be here.
Thanks.